Welcome one and all to the end of the week. I'm John Derulo. This is the Damage Report. This is a Friday, which means we've got chores to do. Brett, would you mind helping me take out the garbage later on?
Not at all, dudes. I just tested positive before the show.
Oh no.
Hell yeah.
He's got COVID.
I got the Rona. So I have an excuse. I'm not gonna be like Rick Strom and use it as an excuse to call in sick moments before a show.
Did he do that?
Not moments before the show. I'm giving it
like 6 moments.
Guff.
Brett's here. And Brett, you can occasionally be a little bit punchy. So I'm very curious how this is gonna go.
Yeah, me too, dude. I don't know.
You remember the old classic, was it Fox, of the guy who passes out while at a panel at a table?
I've never seen that. That's amazing though.
You've never seen, yeah, he's live commentating his blackout. Like, wait, I'm passing out. Gone.
Yeah. That's right. I've seen that. I'm losing it.
I'm losing it. I appreciate the updates. You know, it's important to communicate. Anyway, Brett, my thoughts and prayers go out to you. I'm sure I can speak for the entirety of the Dragon Squad. Hopefully, Dragonfire will scour the virus from your system. How are you feeling so far?
I feel fine. I just sound horrible. And last night I felt insane, but not sick.
I don't sound too bad yet.
For like 5 seconds. I sound hot.
I know. I was gonna let them say that, but I was thinking it.
If y'all are more turgid or moist than norms,
no,
it's because of the Rona. It's because this. All I have to do after that is speak in an Aussie accent so the ladies can really feel it, you know? According to my wife.
That's not
my wife,
bad,
if I speak in an Aussie accent, then she's like, all right, keep going, don't stop. You want to shrimp to throw on my Barbie.
On a day in which you use the Australian accent, she sleeps only 1 or 2 rooms away.
Yeah.
You can feel the warmth and connection. Anyway, I occasionally ask, why is it that we don't get the respect? This is why. Anyway,
That'd be award winner. Here. Don't get no respect.
Exactly.
What's with that playing food?
Have one of those.
I don't get no respect.
I get that. I get what you're doing there. Both levels of it. Anyway, we've got news to talk about. We are going to be talking about Donald Trump has found a candidate who is too crazy for him. So that's gonna be something. Baby formula, when will it exist again? We'll try to figure it out. We'll put, I think, a final pin in our years of coverage of issues at meatpacking plants. So we're gonna be talking about that. And then diving into crypto. What's going on with it right now? Where is it likely to go politically? We've got that coming up. And then if you are watching our live full show, we'll be closing out the show as we always do on Fridays by throwing away our garbage people.
I'll translate, he's away from the microphone, by throwing away the garbage.
I think they could hear me still. So if you are, if you're watching, well, the clips, you're not gonna see this, but if you're on the podcast, on our live show, we throw away some garbage people. It's a lot of fun, so we're gonna do that later on. Anyway, with all that said, please hit the like button if you're on a stream, a platform that allows for that. And if you want to send us comments, tweets, super chats, and all that, we'll respond as we go. But with all that said, Brett, is there enough of you left to talk about some news?
Sure, we'll find out, won't we?
We will. Passing out, gone. Okay, let's jump into this.
Let me put it very simply here. I don't see any scenario where Kathy Barnett can win a general election in Pennsylvania. Let me get specific why. First, in recent years, she engaged repeatedly in some pretty disturbing, very controversial rhetoric surrounding gays and lesbians and Muslims. And she makes no distinction, for example, between Islam and radical Islam, wants to actually cancel a whole religion. On Twitter, she asked her followers to pray for her because, quote, she was about to board the plane to California and, quote, there was a homosexual female on the flight. In 2015, she tweeted, quote, Obama did what he does best, shoving his homosexual agenda down everyone's throats and paraded a slew of, quote, gay people before the Pope, whatever that means. She also heavily insinuated Obama was a horrible gay Muslim. Obama is horrible on all measures. He loves all things that are homosexual and supports all things that are Muslim. Also on Twitter, Barnett seemingly called for Islam to be banned in the United States. That, in other words, would eliminate the First Amendment to our U.S. Constitution.
That was Sean Hannity doing, I think, everything I planned to say in talking about this candidate, Kathy Barnett, who is a legitimate crazy person and said all of those things and has all of those positions. And so does everyone else on Sean Hannity's network. And most of the candidates he's fine with have said and done all of that. So I'm not entirely sure exactly how I'm supposed to process that. But the right is not fans of Kathy Barnett. And I want to give a heads up to the director. If we could jump ahead to graphic 4. Sean Hannity has really been going off about her. It wasn't just that. He did his monologue. He brought on other candidates to come on to talk about her. You can see in this shot, Asin on Twitter showed they spent more than 20 minutes, a full third of Sean Hannity's program, just discussing this candidate and all of what she's done. And what she's done is legitimately pretty crazy. In fact, I think we have a little bit of footage of her from back in 2016. Let's take a look.
The mindset of a Muslim is very different from the mindset of Americans. And that's the reason why we cannot fully understand the level, the depth of the depravity, the depth of the evil, because it's just not a part of the American fabric for the most part.
So that's obviously terrible, and we don't agree with that. But the idea that you wouldn't draw a distinction between terrorists who happen to be Muslim and the far more than 1 billion Muslims in the world, that's what Fox has been doing for a very long time. Like, it's weird, Brett, that they have this particular issue. One wonders if it's not purely an ideological thing and it's more they've already thrown in for Dr. Oz in that Pennsylvania Senate primary thing.
It's absolutely that. It's do as I say, not as I do for Hannity and Trump. Like, what they do is invoke anti-Islamic rhetoric. You don't even need to go further than about Obama, because Trump is the one who was the birther certificate originator for the most part around Barack Obama, saying he's a Muslim. He was born in Kenya because he's so Muslim he couldn't help but just go to Kenya to get born. This is the exact same rhetoric that Trump and Hannity use on a daily basis, but they already got their horse, Dr. Oz. And the thing is, like, if there wasn't a Dr. Oz, they'd be absolutely, I agree with you, behind her. But they've already, the train's already left the station on him. And what's hilarious is if you look at Dr. Oz's appearances in Pennsylvania rallies alongside Donald Trump, they boo the guy. Because for some reason they can't handle the fact that Dr. Oz is a poser, even though Trump is 100% a poser as well, in the exact same fake successful, fake reality show way. At least Dr. Oz invented a heart valve.
I did not know that, actually. That's impressive. Yeah, they don't like him, and that is what is producing this opportunity for Kathy Barnett. I want to give you a little bit more of what she's said that they now have a problem with in this very specific instance. Tweets like, just confronted a Muslim today in 2016. Okay, if that was Marjorie Greene, would they have a problem with that? Does anyone, if Lauren Boebert had tweeted that, would they have a problem with that? She also put out this message in 2015, pedophilia is a cornerstone of Islam. That's crazy. It's crazy to say that. It is crazy to attack an entire religion. It's also crazy to assert that everyone you don't like is a pedophile. And so I look forward to the right not doing that thing anymore. But no, they're gonna be perfectly happy to do so. So look, there's the crazy things that she said. There's also questions about her past. She apparently lived in Virginia as recently as 2018, but now is running to be a senator of Pennsylvania. Doesn't really want to answer questions about, like, when did she actually move? What is her attachment to Pennsylvania? Didn't turn over documents about her military service, says that she served her country proudly for 10 years in the Armed Forces Reserves. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. A lot of her past is a complete mystery, but to be fair, she only wants to be a senator. And yeah, Brett, so like the specific things that they claim to have an issue on, the denigrating an entire religion, trying to cancel an entire religion. Sean Hannity was not doing videos about how Trump shouldn't have done the Muslim ban, saying that Obama is a secret Muslim. That was not only Fox News's thing for literally years. That's why they got excited about Donald Trump. back in 2012, 2013, 2014. So the whole thing just seems so shallow, but they've got a lot of their big name personalities doing it. I wonder if it will be enough to get Dr. Oz across the line.
I think it will. Power is power. That's one thing that a lot of people in politics don't understand. One definition of politics is discourse in the service of power. It's not discourse in the service of what's right. It's not discourse in the betterment of society. It's discourse in the service of power. And once you understand that, you understand everything every Republican is doing. And it makes you want to bash your head against the wall when you listen to what Democrats are doing, because they are not executing discourse in the service of power. It's discourse in the service of a status quo. But in this case, all that Trump is doing is saying whatever he needs to say to get power. And that's what Lindsey Graham's doing. That's what Dr. Oz is doing. Every time you see someone flip-flop and get away with it, it's because they correctly identified what discourse would end up getting them the power.
Yeah. Well, look, you were mentioning Trump there, so I do want to jump to Trump. So a big old apologies to the director. I'm all over the place. I'm gonna jump back to the first graphic, and then we're eventually gonna move on to the Steve Bannon stuff. So apologies, but don't worry, the weekend's coming. You don't have to deal with me for much longer. But with that said, let's jump in this first graphic. Donald Trump is
John.
Oh, this is the strike back, is what this is.
No, this
They've
is
got the
John.
power.
No.
What?
They put up. I'm looking at the sheet. The sheet says graphic 1. There's a 1 in parentheses, and that's the graphic that went up. Sophie is highlighting it, John. There's no strike back.
Brett, that is the correct graphic, but I need to introduce it. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's the wrong graphic.
At the beginning of the second hour, I'm going to explain what John does to make certain like TD's lives and producers' lives a living hell.
Yeah, no, I acknowledge that. I said I apologize in advance. I know what I'm doing. And I know that they crave being able to make me look ridiculous from the shadows.
No,
anyway,
I can guarantee you that's not the case.
I'm going to try to get into this graphic, and I guarantee they're going to stab me in the back.
No, they're not. No one's stabbing you in the back. You said, here's graphic 1. And then you said it. I'm just gonna sit here and I'm gonna
resetting. I can't just reset on a graphic. I have to intro it. You understand this?
All right, here we go.
You have COVID. I feel like I have a fever. What is going on right now? Donald Trump is coming out hard against Kathy Barnett, who is going up against Dr. Oz in the Republican primary for Pennsylvania's Senate. He put out a statement, since he's not yet back on social media, saying Kathy Barnett will never be able to win the general election against the radical left Democrats. Dr. Oz is the only one who will be able to easily defeat the crazed lunatic with a capital L Democrat in Pennsylvania. A vote for anyone else in the primary is a vote against victory in the fall. And so very concerned that she can't possibly win. Now, why are they worried about her? I mean, Dr. Oz is still doing quite well in the polls after getting Trump's endorsement. Well, recent polls show that while Oz did get a boost from the endorsement seemingly, or name recognition, I don't know, but he's up to 22%. Barnett is up 10 points. And right now, it is very mixed right there. Oz, McCormick is more of like a establishment Republican. Barnett, who's like a legitimate crazy. Oz is cosplaying crazy to get the Trump people to like him. And then, I don't know, maybe undecided will end up becoming a senator. But what's interesting is that she is able to do this despite being massively outspent. So David McCormick has spent 12.4 million. There's like 11.4 million on television ads. Barnett has spent $137,000 on television ads. So she has jumped up despite very little money being put into that. And so they are worried. They're worried that she could end up beating the candidate that Trump has chosen. Trump already lost in one or two of his endorsements the last go round, so he doesn't want that to happen again, which is not only why he's trying to stop her, but also why he's kind of hedging his bets. Because he also says, in the guise of criticism, she has many things in her past which have not been properly explained or vetted. But if she's able to do so, she will have a wonderful future in the Republican Party, and I will be behind her all the way. So she can't possibly win. She sucks. She's gonna give this race to the left, but I guess if she wins, she's awesome, and I love her, Brett.
Yeah, that is the kind of strength. Listen, this exposes that there is no like unifying principle of the Republican Party. All it is, and this shouldn't drive people crazy though, that statement. He's like, listen, at the end of the day, I am a vote red till you're dead kind of person. And he says that, and that's fine, but that's something that Donald Trump does, that he somehow gets away with it because he's so snivelly and stupid. It's because he can, as I said on your show since before he was president, he's just a truffle pig for this kind of stuff. He can smell which way he can tell where it's all going, and so he tries to get out ahead of it, even if as recently as yesterday he was wildly against it.
Yeah, 100%. By the way, I'm just gonna, we don't have to go to the graphics. I'm just gonna let you know that there is a little bit of disagreement here. Steve Bannon really likes her. She, by the way, has attacked Trump, calling him horrid, very little substance, moral character is questionable. Now, this is all stuff that she said back in 2016. Others have said worse stuff against him, and he's ended up liking them. So I don't know, maybe she'll be able to pull a JP Mandel. But what's interesting is that we don't have this as a graphic, but after all this came out this morning, she has to respond to it, of course. So she tweeted, remember when they told you President Trump was unelectable and then he won? Remember when they told you Ron DeSantis was unelectable and then he won? They both won and gave us some of the best conservative representation we've ever seen. The experts have no idea. And that's an okay point, although I don't know that people ever said that about Ron DeSantis, but they did say it about Trump, so she has a point. Some of the experts got it wrong. But in this case, the expert she's criticizing is Trump. Like, he's the one saying she can't get elected. So I don't know, Brett, it seems the argument falls apart a little bit at that point.
This is primary politics, and what happens typically in primary politics is the crazies, their words, get involved in that. Because most people going about their daily lives are just not paying attention to politics. So you get the more engaged, more ideologically polarized people out to the polls. And Trump has been able to galvanize that population a lot and make them believe that they can make a difference. And they have made the difference. And so in primary politics, those people have a higher propensity to win overall. And then they say that the prevailing wisdom is that in the general election, not only does the more moderate candidate typically win, but the psycho crazy candidate who's been able to galvanize the crazies, for lack of a better term, in their party, then just starts changing their tune and going centrist. And that's something that Mitt Romney got in trouble for saying. He called it the Etch-a-Sketch. You shake the Etch-a-Sketch after the primary and you go angle toward the middle. The difference is these days, Republicans have largely had more faith in the crazies. So what they do is they keep up the crazy rhetoric to that base because they think that's what's gonna take them over the edge. Because in their minds, the fiscal Republicans have always believed that the psycho religious zealots in their party aren't gonna get what they want anyway. They're just getting paid lip service. So the moderates will vote red till they're dead. And they just have more excited ultra MAGAs or whatever Biden wants to call them now stupidly. So that's the new calculus, and that's a different approach to politics than has happened for years and years and years. And then the last thing I'll say about that is on the Democratic side, they've never once embraced that. They don't know how to do it. They always are playing by a playbook like 500 years too old.
Okay, I think those are perfectly reasonable points. I think also logistically, it's difficult for some of these crazies, even if they wanted to do the Etch-a-Sketch thing. I think that there's some histories that are a little bit harder to clear away. But I agree.
Marjorie Taylor Greene will stay in office, and she has those moments, and she's like, "Well, that was before I was in office, and I'm different now."
Yeah, that's
huge
true.
wink.
Exactly. Although her base doesn't believe that or think that, they think that that's a strategic thing, and they're right.
More needs to be done, that we do not want parents, mothers, families out there to be stressed and worried about feeding their babies. That is why the president today had conversations with the CEOs of Walmart and Target, why he had conversations with Reckitt and Gerber about efforts to increase production, why we're taking steps to ensure that we are making WIC dollars available to a range of other supplies. So we're seeing increases over the last couple of weeks. More needs to be done. We're going to cut every element of red tape we can cut. We're going to work with manufacturers. We're going to import more to expedite this as quickly as possible.
So that is Jen Psaki facing tough questions about the difficulty in terms of the supply of baby formula, basically across the country, definitely in certain areas. People are having to drive for hours just to try to find some, and that is a significant problem. We're gonna describe how this has happened. Before that though, I do wanna let you know, if you're a particularly dumb guy out there, the answer, it turns out, and we consulted with the nation's best doctors, is not, well, they just start making milk. That's not, I thank you for trying to help with your limited capacity. Turns out, doesn't work exactly like that. Anyway, this is an issue because nearly 1 in 5 babies receive formula within their first 2 days of life. So instantly on formula. By 3 months, less than half are exclusively breastfeeding, meaning they also need some form of formula as a supplement. There are, of course, a lot of babies in the country, and this is the health and possibly lives of babies that are on the line. So this is a very significant issue. And apparently, the reason that we're currently experiencing a shortage is that there was a contamination problem at an Abbott, that's a company factory that produces Similac. Several other brands also had contamination problems. And so Abbott voluntarily shut down the factory in February amid complaints that the contaminated formula potentially led to 2 infant deaths. So very serious issue. I can understand why they thought that it needed to be shut down. And so it's still not up and running. And when you have a couple of companies or a couple of factories that are overwhelmingly responsible for a product being available, that can be a significant issue. And so they are trying to, get through that, bearing in mind that it's also combining with other, fairly long-standing supply chain issues. So there's a lot of issues here. It needs to be dealt with. This is why you have to have responsible governance. And so they are trying to project, Brett, that they're on this. But we'll see. People don't, at the end of the day, want Psaki answers. They want formula on shelves.
This happens a lot, cyclically, typically. So gas prices, baby formula, milk, eggs, butter, all of these things, when they get more expensive or more difficult to get, then everyone starts to hate you. And baby formula, and then not only that, but people try to seize on that opportunity to regain power. And so when the kids can't have formula, that is one of those we are no longer a developed nation thing. The same people who are going to seize on that opportunity are those who are keeping us from doing things other developed nations do to keep people healthy. But they're not going to tell you that. They're just going to seize on it with things like attacking you for not having formula and stickers next to the gas prices with Biden pointing saying, I did that.
Yeah, 100%. And so look, they're gonna try to take advantage of it, and they're free to. That's the way American politics works, as you're describing. They're not necessarily saying exactly what Trump would have done differently. Presumably, Trump might have forced them to keep the formula place open, despite the very real risk that more infants would die as a result of contaminated formula. And that is not pure speculation, as we're gonna get to later on in the show. That's what they did with a different industry during the pandemic. But for right now, it's a significant problem. Many mothers are saying that they're having to ration food for their babies as they search for more formula. Some are driving several hours, and even once they get there, there's none on those shelves either. There is price gouging going on, of course, people marketing cans for double or triple their normal price. And many large retailers are just completely sold out. So just trying to order online and have it shipped to you isn't actually an answer. And this is an issue for a lot of people, but as with basically everything else we talk about in the show, there is inequality to be considered. People living in poverty are most likely to report that they've supplemented with formula in the first 3 months of the baby's life. Black, Hispanic, Asian, and American Indian parents are all more likely to say that they used formula within 3 months than white parents. So it's going to hit everyone, but it's going to hit certain communities harder. And this is one of many issues that, Brett, I don't have a solution for. I mean, theoretically, there could be an invocation of the Defense Production Act or something like that. But anything like that is still going to take a little bit of time to get the factories back up and running and then to begin shipping nationwide. So it doesn't seem like this is going to be solved in a matter of days.
Right, to solve this problem will take an active government. And the source of the problem was a private company being contaminated because they didn't do their stuff right. And all of the things that are going to protect us from killing infants and all the things that are going to get us out of this are things that people on the left recommend usually. And the things that got us into it are things that people on the right recommend usually. Specifically the thing where like there should be some kind of regulation so that we don't kill like newborn babies. And the fear of some kind of fine or penalty is from the government is what keeps these companies from killing more and more people. And if you think, oh my God, the company doesn't want to kill kids because that'll hurt their bottom line, sure. But if you look at what they advocate for, it's less and less life-saving regulation and more money-making freedom.
Some of the
this
images
is what it looks
right
like
there.
In your town, but on the border, the shelves look different.
So American families, there's a shortage, but if you're a migrant, don't worry because Uncle Sam has a stash of that.
So that is Fox and Friends, one of the most watched shows in American political media. And they have seen on Twitter a photo of stores of baby formula at the border intended for undocumented immigrants to use. You can see the photo right there. So Kat Hammock, I should say, took photos. And this is what American politics is now. You take a photo of a shelf with no context. Maybe it's from 10 years ago, maybe it's from Japan, I don't know. And then that is it. That is our, our news cycle. That is our discourse. So undocumented immigrants are getting formula. Good American white people aren't getting formula. And so Fox and Friends talked about it. And then Tucker talked about it, and Hannity talked about it, and Jesse Waters talked about it, and Laura Ingraham talked about it all in one day. And entire news networks, basically their entire news cycle was dominated by a photo that appeared to show that bad brown people are getting access to formula and your good white baby can't get it. It resulted not only in round the clock coverage on Fox News, but Greg Abbott, governor of Texas, put out a statement saying that Biden has turned a blind eye to parents because that shelf in the Twitter photo had formula on it. He's saying they're out of touch, it's reckless. Our children deserve a president who puts their needs and survival first, not one who gives critical supplies to illegal immigrants before the very people he took the oath to serve. And considering what's been going on with the leak of the SCOTUS and the impending destruction of Roe v. Wade, immediately transitioning to I am not comfortable until these immigrant babies start dying from starvation. That's a hell of a turn, Brett.
Listen, it's all free, everyone the freedom of speech is exactly this speech. They're allowed to say whatever they want and they're allowed to construct their own arguments. I think this argument from Abbott is a winner for him, for his people, politically. Yes. It's a winner. And there's no winners on the left, and it's driving me insane. It's okay, you know what? They're not doing anything. They're not messaging effectively. They're not turning this around. Even the public citizen, like, oh, starve these babies. All these counterattacks are like implicit in their argument is still that we need to care about non-American babies than we need to care about American babies. They're like, oh, they want to starve babies. Let me get you on the hypocrisy of being pro-life and then starving babies. Instead of saying, listen, every time, and Marjorie Taylor Greene interrupted a discussion about Ukraine to make a statement about how we're not giving formula to American babies. I tweeted at Raskin, even though he still got her in a, listen, we're gonna spend money on foreign wars argument. And what he needs to turn around and do, and what they need to turn around and do is like, great, I'm glad you're here to the government can help party. because that's what we try to do. And every time we try to fix something like this, every time we try to get health care for people in America, you vote against it. You do it. We did it yesterday. Every time we try to give freedom for Americans, every time we try to give body autonomy to women, you vote against it. But your focus is on what? Looking at kids' penises before they go swimming to make sure that they're in the right race in the NCAA. Can I see your genitals? The pro-freedom party does that. They vote against freedom and they vote against helping Americans. Where's that fire? Where's that message?
I like that. That's good. That's good, Brett. Let's make that an ad. Actually, I do like that. Yeah, look, in some ways, pure advocacy for values is a little bit more difficult because they can put out a message where they know a significant portion of their base doesn't care if these people live or die and kind of like the idea that they would go without, and they can play to that. It's much easier, I think, to play to that than to encourage people to believe that we all deserve consideration, empathy, compassion, and dignity. That is harder. I do like the way that you turn that, though. I think we should run with that.
It's a brain dead. This Public's graphic 11. Sorry to do it, but graphic 11. This is a brain dead, bad politics, preaching to the choir tweet.
I mean, maybe there's some good Christians that won't like that think.
There's still starving babies at the end of this discussion. You're just choosing which babies to starve.
No, it's not but that's playing into a ridiculous false dichotomy.
Right, but you haven't gotten out of the false dichotomy.
One palette of formula, and it's like, do I give it to the migrants or do I give it to people in Dallas, Fort Worth? That's not actually how it works. And by the way, Marjorie Greene seems to think it is very important that formula is available. It is not important that people actually have the money to purchase it if it was on the shelves. She's perfectly happy for people to have to make very difficult decisions that leave millions of American kids, babies, on the brink of starvation every day. Not in this one crisis with this one supply chain issue, but there's food insecurity and people going to bed hungry. That is a constant across America. She doesn't want to do anything to give them the funds necessary to make sure that their kids or babies are fed. She is just using this as an opportunity. She doesn't care about the actual problem, which is broader than one issue with formula.
The difference, I agree with a lot of that. And the only difference is where you end up at the end of it. That's my point. At the end of it, you're still like public citizen, and all these takes are still in that photo is what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
In my take, we end up with, here's what your entire party is all about. Complaining and offering no solutions. And when we offer solutions, you vote against it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Same thing with the gas prices. We're not going to relitigate the entire thing, but she and Lauren Boebert would constantly say we need to get the prices down, and literally everything, solution after solution after solution, they were against. Mm-hmm. Anyway, with that said, really wanted to have these two stories linked, but we're gonna have to take a break. When we come back, we will be talking about meatpacking plants, and Brett will invariably make jokes about penises after this. A select subcommittee in the House has released a report on a story that we've been tracking here at the Damage Report for a couple of years. How meatpacking plants were forced to stay open, workers were forced to go there, and a lot of people got sick along the way. Turned out that was done not in the pursuit of making sure that we had access to meat. That was never in question. It was done in the pursuit of profit, and a lot of people lost their lives as a result of it. I want to give you a few little excerpts and summaries from this report because it is significant and you might not see much about it. They say that the biggest players in the US meat industry pressed baseless claims of beef and pork shortages early in the pandemic to support Donald Trump, who was then president, to do a special order to keep them open. So the committee alleges that Tyson Foods in particular prepared a draft with input from other companies that became the basis for an executive order to keep plants open. That was issued in April 2020. And because of that, workers were forced to go in or lose their jobs. The report says that the nation's largest meatpackers and industry trade groups repeatedly misled the public when they warned that any slowdown in their operations posed an imminent threat to the nation's meat supplies. Those fears were baseless, the investigators wrote. But let me give you an example of what those baseless claims looked like. The chairman of Tyson's board, John Tyson, said the food supply chain is breaking. He wrote that in a full-page newspaper ad that ran in the Washington Post, which by the way is doing reporting on this now, the New York Times, the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. This is in April of 2020, saying we have a responsibility to feed our country. It is as essential as healthcare. This is a challenge that should not be ignored. Our plants must remain operational so that we can supply food to our families in America. And so they said that. They put pressure on people. They put together this report. They sent it to this draft executive order, sent it to the White House. The White House passed it less than 1 week later because everyone was terrified that there would not be enough meat in April of 2020. What was the actual situation in April of 2020? They shipped a record amount of pork exports. 129,000 tons were exported just to China just in April of 2020. They were not worried about a significant slowdown. They were worried about losing a little bit of money. And as we'll turn to in a bit, there was a cost to be had, if not in dollars, then in lives. But Brett, what do you think?
I love meat. I think it's what's for dinner. I think that as someone who currently has coronavirus, I ate bacon this morning, and I don't know, man. This is like par for the course. This is basically, if you want to make a point out of it, you can say that they're saying, listen, we have to do business at any and all expenses, even if that expense is the truth, because it wasn't true that they needed more meat. They had meat.
Yeah, they did. They lied. They wanted to keep running. They wanted their workers to be forced to go there. They didn't want to have to pay them to stay home and stop the spread and like lower the curve and all that. They didn't want that. And it's fairly clear. They looked at, by the way, to generate this report, 151,000 pages of documents. And some of what they found, they said, according to internal industry documents, they showed that despite awareness of the high risks of coronavirus spread in their plants, they worked with the Trump administration to insulate themselves from coronavirus-related oversight, to force workers to continue working in dangerous conditions, and to shield themselves from legal liability for any resulting worker illness or death. One lobbyist, by the way, in one of these reports says, now to get rid of those pesky health departments. So you can tell where their minds were at this point. And by the way, so they're working with the Trump administration. They're sending them the draft executive order. They get exactly what they want with the executive order. The Trump administration then requests that the companies issue positive statements and social media about what Trump had done. So it helps out the meatpacking plants on the money side. Trump gets to look like he's taking this seriously in the meat sense, not in the saving people's lives sense. And so let's turn now to what happened as a result of this. They keep the factories open, they force people to work. There's an estimate of 334,000 coronavirus cases that have been tied to meatpacking plants. That did $11 billion in economic damage. Although notably, it did not do that damage to Tyson Foods or to these other meatpacking plants. It was broad-based damage. You and your family might have lost a ton of money, or a relative as a result of this, but Tyson is gonna be just fine. 59,000 workers at plants of just 5 of these companies got sick. At least 269 people have been directly identified as having died due to the cases that they got at these plants. And I'm tempted to say that I can't imagine how this could be worse. But then in one of these articles, as I was doing research for the show today, I remembered something that we talked about almost 2 years ago, and it was this. As they were dying, Tyson managers placed bets on how many employees at their Waterloo, Iowa plant would become infected. More than 1,000 workers, over a third of the entire staff, would test positive for COVID. At least 5 of them died. The plant shut down for 2 weeks. The managers were literally doing a betting pool, a dead pool, effectively, of how many people would get sick. And they did. They got sick and they died, but Tyson saved a little bit of money, I guess, Brett.
And as a Trump supporter, not that I am, but if you are a Trump supporter, what do you gravitate toward? You gravitate towards stories where the government is screwing you behind the scenes. They're doing these deals where it's for the benefit of the politician and the benefit of the company or the organization or the secret government entity. They're doing this behind the back, and they're back and turning around and screwing you. And that's the reason that you voted Trump into office. But here's proof that he is doing exactly the stuff that you hate, which is pretending one thing's true, doing it so he can get all these positive accolades and all this stuff, but it's not for that thing that you as a populist are fighting for, the little guy. This is just for the big guy to succeed, keep making money. And so they can step over everyone smaller than them on the way to the bank, regardless of whether they're lying or if it kills people. That's it.
That is it. And it's dark. And like I said, we've been doing throughout the pandemic and intermittent updates about this. And like some of it we knew about some of the sickness and the outbreaks and all that, but like how close the coordination was and what's gonna be the outcome of this? Gonna get fined or whatever? No, I'm probably not even going to. And if they do, it's gonna be nothing. It's gonna be nothing compared to the money that they saved by sacrificing their workers. Again, like remember DeSantis has started up his victims of communism thing? Add these names to the victims of capitalism, because that is exactly what they are.
These mere mortals, just like you and me, as they peer over the edge, they calm their minds and steel their nerves with 4 simple words that have been whispered by the intrepid since the time of the Romans. Fortune favors the brave.
Remember that ad for crypto? You could see it at the Super Bowl and other places. It was Matt Damon, an actor I actually like. It is absolute most condescending, telling you that you're a big wuss if you're not investing in cryptocurrency. And a lot of people have. A lot of people getting into crypto. Matt Damon certainly got paid for that ad. And how did it go a couple months later? Well, I don't know. Bitcoin's price is down 55% from its peak. And by the way, we're gonna give you a couple of headlines. Do a little bit of Googling. It is an apocalypse out there in terms of the crypto. Bitcoin prices fell 9% in just one day. Bitcoin lost more than a quarter of its value in a week. It's not traded this low since late 2020. You can see a chart here of that dip going down. It would be fun to know exactly when Matt Damon signed on to this on that little chart. But yeah, you look at the headlines. It's either the crypto market has lost 200 billion or 600 billion or $1 trillion. That was as of yesterday. Whatever it is, it's bad. Certain individual cryptocurrencies like Luna is now trading at effectively zero once again. A lot of people have lost a lot of money. And by the way, actually we do know when he marked it. Let's go to this. You can see where exactly that ad premiered with Matt Damon. That is where that little mark is on October 25th. It has fell significantly from then, but that's crypto like sort of writ large. On individual ones, Matt Novak noted, if you invested $100 in the Luna cryptocurrency 1 month ago, it would now be worth 0.04. By the way, that was yesterday. It's less than a penny now. And so like this, the appeal was bravery, Brett. It was, why are you being such a wuss and not getting in on this thing? The appeal was never, here are good reasons to believe it's stable and that it will grow. And it's not just based on hype. It's not a scam at all. And a lot of people are gonna lose pretty much everything.
Yeah, and it's an unregulated market, and that's what you get. And it's fine if it's just rich people being like, here's $9 extra. I'm gonna see if I can turn it into 9 million. But if it's real people that get sucked into it, which is what happens, and exactly the strategy behind a Super Bowl commercial is to get beer drinking regos to go buy Ethereum. Well, then it is explicitly those people who get screwed. I don't think it worked. Like I think there's enough people out there who are like buying the rumor and selling the news, So like when it got that big, a lot of the crypto people were like, oh, I'm out now. You got Matt Damon in there. And I think the funniest thing about that ad with Matt Damon where he's in space is like, he was in this movie called Elysium where everyone else was left behind on planet Earth while the rich people had this awesome space station. That's literally what's happening in the commercial that he's in. He's Jodie Foster in Elysium, not Matt Damon. You've changed, bro. You've changed.
Exactly. And look, I still like him, but like, don't take financial advice from actors. And if you do, why Matt Damon in particular? But like, I guess some guys think Matt Damon is tough. And if Matt Damon calls you a wuss, then you're gonna like knee jerk put all of your money into an unregulated digital currency. I guess we've been warning people for a really long time about this. And And I don't relish it. Like there are some rich people who will have lost some money on this, but my worry has always been regular people who are desperate to finally make money, knowing that wages don't seem like they're ever gonna go up. Home ownership is damn near impossible. How am I ever supposed to get the money for a down payment? Maybe with an ape, maybe if we go to the moon, I can do it. And that is the sort of desperation that these people are playing at. And so it's just a shame. I know Sophie, our producer, is very worried right now. She put all her money in Luna bars, and we don't know if that's gonna ever recover. I would say buy the dip or maybe eat the dip in this case. And that's what we've got. Okay, I don't think that we have time to do this last thing. I think that we should just chill, right? Yeah. Anyway, it's gonna be really interesting, by the way, to see. I'm an idiot. Don't take financial advice from me. And by the way, the stock market isn't doing well. It's not like it's just crypto, it's stocks as well. But while I am an idiot, in theory with the stocks, like Disney is down, but Disney owns IPs, they own amusement parks, they have a streaming service with millions of subscribers. There is reason to believe the price could go up based on something that exists, that is real in one way or another. With the cryptocurrency, it totally could go back up. It could go back up and eclipse the highs that it's faced. And in that case, buying the dip would make sense. But the only way that it goes up is purely based off of if people think that it will. It is nothing more than perception. And maybe that's enough. It doesn't seem like enough to risk your life savings, to risk your home, to risk your marriage. I don't know, Brett. Again, I'm an idiot. Don't take advice from me. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, or anyone on TV. I think, in the original Bitcoinization, the original Bitcoin concept, it was people, two groups of people. It was people who thought this was the future and people who were like, well, there's enough people who think this is the future, I should get in on it, among other things in my diversified portfolio. And I think there's still people who think it's the future. And those folks are still around, but I think the people who more and more, the financially minded people who are always looking for something. If it's not Bitcoin, it's a small stock. If it's not a small stock, it's a new technology that's being developed by a company. Like they're always speculating on that stuff. They speculated on this. It got to 70 grand a Bitcoin and they're getting out. Because those same people work with regulators all the time. Maybe they sniff that there's a regulation coming down the pike. Maybe they realize like it's too hot in general. Those things happen all the time. Financial people talk about that all the time. It's just too hot right now. Cancel.
Yeah. We will see. We will see. Okay, we got 30 seconds. If you're on one of our linear platforms or listening on the podcast, thank you as always for listening to the show. We really do appreciate it. If you are on one of our other platforms, of which we are on many at this point, Brett and I have got more that we're gonna be talking about, including throwing away the garbage people of the week. So don't go anywhere. We're gonna take a quick little break, but Brett and I will be back after this. Pitchfork's Dragon says Brett is a national treasure. He should host a TYT primetime show to catch West Coast viewers.
I just don't think he's as someone tweeted something similar. It's like as director of programming here who is involved in the decisions as to what shows to make. I just don't think the guy's likable.
Maybe he should smile more. Come on, Brett, give us a smile.
I got that when I did a Nerdist News pilot. I was like pilot host Nerdist News. They were like, "Can you smile when you say these jokes?" I was like, "No one does that."
So I was like dry joke.
Blah 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 blah.
Yeah. See, you should watch Pitch Meeting. He smiles while he jokes. Anyway, Hilltop Ironwork says, Angry Brett rocks. These people are one media training away from saying the 14 words. Pitchfork's Dragon then goes on to say in a super chat, that rant was incredible. Brett is a national treasure. He should have a TYT primetime show. Hashtag replay squad. He really wants this. He wants replays and Brett plays. That's what he wants. Okay, people are bringing up Marjorie Greene spending like campaign cash for a $92,000 SUV. Raskin could have turned that around and asked how many containers of Similac could have been bought with that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Leu Veneer, member for 17 months at tier 2 says, Brett, I'd love to hear from you. You should be on the Hell site. Rawr. Power Bottom Dragon, John, you're great too. Wait, which Hell site? He's already on Twitter. Isn't that the Hell site? I think that's the Hell site. Anyway, Andrew Allman super chatted to say, get well soon, Brett. Your dragon meow sounds really deep due to your COVID case. There's a real Phoebe thing going on right there. Maybe
I get that. I understand that reference.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Damage Report. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, John Adarola. I'll see you soon.